welcome to the Higher Level Podcast. Actually feels weird doing an intro, we've not done one in a while, but I figured I'd talk a wee bit about why we're on tonight. So we're on to talk about another Cagewarriors Trilogy. We've got another 3 fun cards coming up, so basically we'll get Stevie and James's thoughts on the fights. Stevie, you've been hard doing your research, aye?
I have. I've been on UFC Fight Pass on YouTube, and I've got my iPad ready to go. I've got the fights in front of me. I'm prepared.
So well prepared then. It's good. These trilogy things, I've got to say, but they've been good, man. It's good getting the 3 cards there, the 3 nights, and at good times and that. The UFC, the Cagewarriors trilogies have been really fun. They've been good shows as well, haven't they?
Aye, really good cards. Always well matched as well. So, there'll be a lot of good fights in the one coming up. So I'm looking forward to it.
Aye, and it's obviously we've got a few returns on the cards as well. We've got Paddy Pimblett coming back, which we'll get to. He's fighting in the Saturday night, so we'll jump straight into the first card. So that's on the Thursday. That's Cagewarriors 120, and that's in the 18th of March. So kicking off that main card, we've got Stephen Hooper, and I really hope I don't mess this guy's name up. We've got Michael Figlak. So who's what to come in first? Stevie, you've been researching hard. You're going to give us a breakdown in this one. You're a man that knows the score.
Right. This one, I'm going for... seeing the UFC picks, I'm 1-5 so far. So, but I'm going for Michael Figlak. I fancy him to win. I've seen, I think, his last fight, he was pretty impressive. Seems like he's decent on the feet, decent grappling. And I think that's Stephen Hooper's predominantly a grappler. Mm-hmm. But I fancy Figlak for that one.
And James?
I've got Figlak as well. I think the two brothers have been on. I don't know if they've been on both the trilogies so far, but they've definitely been on one of them that we were at with Luke, I think, and they both of them really stood out that night. I think Michael Figlak's a pretty good fighter as well. He's got a 4-0 record or something. He's not got a massive record, but
4-0.
When you see him fight, he looks much better than a 4-0 guy. I don't know too much about the other kids, so what you're going to find right across the board is most of these fights could be 50-50s, just because the way Ian Dean match makes there's none of them are going to be walkovers. So I wouldn't be surprised if the other kid wins, but Figlak's been impressive when I've seen him, so I'll go with Figlak.
Perfect. And the next fight in that card, again, obviously it's a lightweight one. This is one I'm quite excited about, is Kieran Lister and Deke Makalinen. Both of them exciting fighters. James, I'll come back to you on this one. We'll just go like that. We'll mix it up every time. Thoughts on the fight?
Good fight. Really, Kieran Lister's exceptional grappler. Like really, really good grappler. And he never got to show that with Joe McColgan. I can't remember if he shot in that fight. It ended up being a bit of a striking match. I think his striking looked very good, but if he tries to strike for too long with Deke, he might have some problems because he's a very sharp striker. I think with Kieran coming off his first loss, I think he's going to be looking to go back to his bread and butter, which is going to be his grappling. So I'd imagine he's going to come out and try and grapple. It's another 50-50 fight. I think Lister will win. I'll be interested to see how he comes back off a loss, but if he's not on point that night, Deke will catch him. And he's a dangerous striker. He fought Alex Davidson for a gym, lost the first round, getting took down and stuff, and then stopped Alex in the next round with a flying knee. He's really versatile, dangerous striker. So could go either way. I think Kieran coming off a loss is probably going to change things up a wee bit, and we'll see what happens. I'll go with Lister, but I wouldn't be surprised again if Deke wins.
Was that fight with Deke and Alex? That was at Headhunters, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
Massive. He was massive at featherweight, Deke, and he's obviously now up at lightweight.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I seen Deke fight. Was it that card actually? And Stevie, your thoughts on the fight?
Again, it's a 50-50 one. It's pretty close. That's a tough one. I was in Mowgli's corner for that one with Decky. Decky's, like you say, is a pretty good striker. Boy used to train with Matty Mullen at our gym. He rates him pretty highly. But that Kane Lister is a really good grappler, and he's got a lot of power on the feet. I think he's had a couple of knockouts on his record as well. That's a flip of the coin, but probably that's a tough one, man. I'll go for Lister because Jimmy's usually right, so I'll go for Lister.
And then we're jumping from lightweight right up to middleweight. We've got Christian Duncan versus Will Curry. Stevie, we'll stay with you there.
This one, that Christian Duncan, he's only 2-0, but he's really good in the feet. Good striker. That Will Curry, I've only seen him the once. He's 5-0, but he's just seemed predominantly grappling based. When I watched it, he was just getting takedown after takedown. The guy that he fought in the card that I seen, it didn't really have much for him, so you didn't really see how good that Will Curry actually is. But I like that Duncan. I think he's good, man. I think he could catch him. I'm going to go with Duncan, even though he's probably underdog, being only 2-0.
Yeah, and James?
I don't actually know too much about these guys other than what Stevie's mentioned with their records and stuff. So I'm going to not pick on this one.
So this isn't a bet the house scenario, this one then?
No, I'll pick if I know the guys or I've seen them and stuff like that, but I'm not too familiar with the guys other than I've seen their names.
Well, the next fight you're definitely going to be familiar with the guys. Obviously, we've got Paul Hughes and James Hendon. Obviously, Paul is coming off a loss to Jordan Vucinic, and he will then obviously Vucinic. I asked him that about 4 times when we spoke to him as well.
Get it together, James.
I know, mate. I know. It's been a long day. He's a chance here. I thought you were wearing a Celtic tap, for fuck's sake. So James, thoughts on this fight and the way it'll go?
This is one of the better fights of the 3 cards, I think, and that's a big kind of statement because there's not a bad fight on these cards. The dynamic that I think will be interesting is how Paul comes back after that loss. In the fight with Jordan. For me, Paul's about as big as you can get at the weight, I think. He's a big, strong, athletic dude. For me, the deciding factor is just the level of competition the guys have been in, especially the way Paul dealt with Aidan Stevens. Was very impressive. And then obviously the fight with Jordan was pretty close. So I'm probably going to side with Paul on this one, I think. Again, it's a very close fight. I don't think it's going to be an easy fight for either guy. I think they'll be back and forth and they'll probably give each other some problems. But Paul just looks like a bigger physical kind of force at featherweight. And again, the deciding thing that I was looking at was just the guys that they fought. And then I'd imagine Paul's going to come back very motivated after a close loss to Jordan and seeing that Jordan's going to fight for the belt and stuff. So he'll probably want to come back and make a bit of a statement.
How important a fight is this for Paul or a fighter in that position where he's suffered his first loss? Does that really test his mettle as a fighter, how he reacts when he goes back in there?
It does, man. There's that kind of saying, you're only as good as your last fight, and he was excellent in the fight with Jordan. It was a brilliant fight, and again, it could have went either way. I scored it to Jordan at the time, watching it, I think. But I think Paul's went away and he's learnt more for that fight than what he probably has with most of the other ones that he's won, because he's blown everyone out the water in his fights before. And I can't remember ever meeting a lot of resistance. He was far too good for most of the guys he'd fought up until Jordan, and then it's the first time you've seen him actually having to overcome stuff. But I think you can tell with that kid's mentality when he talks, like he's got a big future, and I think he'll be looking to get the ball rolling again on on the Thursday night. At the same time, I think it's a massive opportunity for James to come in and take out one of the bigger names in the division as well. So in terms of getting motivated for a fight like that, it wouldn't be hard for both of those guys, but especially with Paul coming off that loss, like the next fight's the most important for you all the time, and he'll not want to feel that again. He'll have made adjustments that should be looking at not letting close fights happen again. He'll be wanting to pull away and be pretty dominant and stuff. So it's a big indicator. Like if he loses again, then it's a massive setback. So it'll be interesting to see how he does come back. I can't imagine it's affected him too much mentally or stuff like that, because it was a close fight against a very good fighter.
Yeah, and Stevie, for you on that fight as well, where are you leaning?
I've only seen that James Hendon fight once, predominantly grappling based as well, but he seemed like quite physical, kind of strong kind of kid, but I don't see him doing that to Paul Hughes. He's a good size featherweight, and I think skill level is slightly ahead of him, to be honest. I think he's that Paul Hughes is really good, man. That fight where Jordan could have went either way. It was really close, and like James says, he'll be wanting to make a statement and get back in and then the title picture, because I think at one point he will be the champion. He's got a good mentality for fighting, the kid. He's really driven and stuff. So I've got Hughes for that one.
Hughes, perfect. And that leads us right into the main event. Obviously at middleweight we've got Jamie Richardson and Kent Kapanen. I can't pronounce that name, it's killing me. Go James, you pronounce it for me.
We'll just call him Kent.
Aye, so we've got Kent. We've got Kent Kapanen. I'm going with that. That's what I'm going with. We'll stay on you, Stevie, for that one.
Mm-hmm. Right, I'm doing my research now. So
you're leaving a bit late.
I've never
so
even
unprofessional, man. So unprofessional.
This guy's not even got a ranking, right? But I've went and checked his record, and he's fought some good guys. He went the distance with Melvin Manhoof. He got beat off Will Fleury, and he beat. Let me just make sure I've got this right. Where the fuck is it? He knocked somebody good out. He knocked somebody good out here. Wait, now wait till I find it. He knocked out Alessio Sakara. So
mentally,
for that alone, I'm taking him. Even though that Jamie Richardson is really good.
So a quick Google search and that's what you're going for.
I'm going on that.
Aye. So he's 12-6. He is, and James, how do you see that one going?
I think Ian Dean's put that right at the top on the Thursday night, because they two are going to come out and go for it striking wise. Jamie, you know what you're getting with Jamie Richardson. I also picked Kent to win. I think he's had 20 odd pro boxing fights in as well. He's got a lot of boxing fights. Aye, I seen him fight at Bellator. And he struggled with Will Fleury. Fought really smart against him in the last fight. He went to wrestling early, got that Kent guy a wee bit wary about throwing, and then actually started out striking him in spells. But big physical, not tall at the weight, but thick at the weight, explosive, good puncher. Obviously, he would need to be to go in and hang with Manhoff and knock out Sakara and stuff. So I think Jamie coming off he got knocked out in his last fight, I think, didn't he, off the champion Fredrickson or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that was only 13 weeks ago. Potentially he could get knocked out again off this guy, but at the same time Jamie's got the capabilities to catch him. If he goes to wrestling early, it might make it a bit more interesting. Kent didn't look great at dealing with wrestling, he just kind of stalls on the ground, went for resets, but I think they've put that at top of the bill on the Thursday night, because those guys are known for coming out and punching. So yeah, and I'm going to go with Kent.
Kent's got that big win in his record as well against Sean Lomas.
Yeah.
And I think he's fought Fabian Edwards as well, as you know.
Yeah, he's fought good guys, man.
Aye, he's only lost to good guys. Like,
it's all in for a Thursday night at a good time. It's a good card if you're an MMA fan.
Yeah, great card.
And then we'll moving on to the Friday night, the Cage Warriors 121. So again, obviously great time for us. And just before we go through the card, James, do you think after everything, all this madness is by way, do you think this is a sort of thing Cage Warriors may continually try to do, or do you think it will be too much work for them doing this 3 cards over 3 nights?
I was speaking to Ian Dean 2 days ago, and he didn't sound happy. He didn't sound like a happy guy. I think he's under a lot of stress for this one. He says they're actually getting harder to put together.
Right.
There's the restrictions are made it harder for guys to get training for this one. They're having trouble getting guys in the country. There's guys, he says there's guys ducking each other, like saying they'll fight but they won't fight this or that. I think they've got another one scheduled 13 weeks after this one, and I think they've probably got contingency plans for 1 or 2 more after that this year. But I think as soon as possible they'll go back to like the one show every 2 months, and then move the show a bit. They just got the promoter's license for California and stuff. Graham Boylan did. So, I think as soon as that's all to happen, they'll maybe do it now and again. But they've done stuff like that before. They've done like 2 shows in the one day, and the night of champions and stuff like that. So they'll always have stuff that's a wee bit different, I think.
And I take it, Stevie, you'll be available for any fights in Cali or anything like that?
I'm ready. I've got my passport ready.
Perfect. And so we'll move on to the card. Obviously, the main card kicks off with the welterweight tournament, and we've got Rosti McMahon versus Ian Garry. Obviously, Ian Garry, a lot of people will be familiar with. He's got a lot of hype around him. James, I'll come to you on this one. How do you see that fight playing out?
I've got Garry winning this one. I had a quick look at the other dude. I think he was quite a decorated amateur, the other guy, but Ian Garry reminds me of Paul Hughes in a way. It looks like it's inevitable that kid's going to do well. So I see him getting to the final of this tournament is just the next step in his progression. He's looked excellent so far. So, excellent coach with Chris Fields and Tom King. I think he'll be too much for this guy, man. I think he looks quite special, the kid, to be honest. I think he'll win this fight, probably with stoppage, but he just doesn't seem to get fazed by anything. He's very good at setting he controls where everything happens. When you watch him fight, he's one of the guys everything seems to happen on his terms, which for a young fighter with the amount of experience he's got, it's impressive watching him. And I think a lot of guys struggle with that, and I think it's going to take somebody pretty special to beat him, or somebody maybe catching him, or not fluky, but something a wee bit different. But I can't see anybody coming in and at this level anyway and dominating them or anything.
And Stevie, your thoughts on that one?
Is this Ian Garry fight we're on?
Yeah, Ian Garry. It's the first fight in the welterweight tournament.
I've got Ian Garry for that. He looks excellent, man. Every time I've seen him, he just looks like he's getting better and better. Really composing that for like you say, like a young fighter. He knows how to use his length and that well. Looks excellent on the ground. Doesn't seem to have nobody's really exposed him yet, but it doesn't seem to have any holes in his game really that I've seen. He looks very good, man. He's got a good coach in that as well, so I fancy him for this one. I don't know much about the Swedish guy. Swedish fighters tend to be always pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go for Ian Garry.
Perfect. And obviously moving to the other half of the welterweight tournament, we've got Jack Grant versus Madars Fleminas. Which way are you swinging there, mate?
Jack Grant. I've got Jack Grant for that one. Even though Jack Grant's moving up, he's a ridiculous size, I think, for a lightweight. I think he's pretty decent size for a welterweight. I've seen that Fleminas fight a couple of times. He's really durable, pretty awkward kind of style of striking and stuff. He seems pretty good everywhere, but I think Jack Grant's pretty good defeat and exceptional grappling, so I've got Jack Grant for that one.
Perfect. And James, which way are you going? Who do you think is going to meet if your picks are right, Ian Garry in the final?
I've also got Jack Grant. We spoke about him after his last fight, and I think it was on the Joe McColgan episode, we mentioned how it looked like Jack Grant had fell in love with his boxing and his striking, and it's kind of took him away from what made him special and what got him into title contention at lightweight, and that was he's an exceptional grappler. And his striking was always good as well and stuff. He's quite versatile and stuff, but in that fight he looked like he was trying to be very textbook. He looked like he was trying to live by the book, and I don't think that suits him. But the kid he's fighting actually he's durable and he's quite erratic with it being disrespectful. But I think Jack Grant, again, coming off a loss, moving up a weight class, and potentially 2 fights away from a welterweight title after losing it on the lightweight one. I think he goes back to what he was good at, comes out and gets that on the ground, and he's like, there's good grapplers. We mentioned Kieran Lister and stuff earlier, but Grant is an exceptional grappler for MMA. I could see him getting a submission in this, I'd imagine.
Perfect. And then we're jumping up to the middleweight fight between Matthew Bonner and James Webb. Obviously, James Webb, like Ian Gary, trains with Tom King out there. So, where are you going in that one, James?
It's an interesting fight because both guys they're excellent pros. I'm leaning towards Webb. I think he's just a wee bit. Matthew Bonner's a good fighter. Again, he fought one of your guys up here, Graham Armstrong, on, I think it was a Budo show. It was quite a close fight, but there's nothing fancy with him. He's just tough and sticks to his game. I thought he looked excellent in the Matt Inman fight, and I've got a lot of respect for Matt Inman, so beating him the way he did kind of pushed him up in my estimation a bit. But I think Webb's a big dude at the weight, former champion at the weight, and I think his Webb seems to struggle with guys who are a wee bit more physical than him, and I don't think Matthew is, because he wasn't massive at welterweight when he fought Graham, and Graham's made 70 kilos numerous times, and I think Webb is like big at the weight, so I think that's a good fight. I think it'll be one of the closer fights on the night. Again, both guys are just solid pros, good everywhere. It might just come down to who gets to impose their will on the other guy for longer periods of time, because I think it's going to go to points. I can't see anybody getting the finish. They're both tough and durable. But I'll probably lean towards Webb, I think.
Yeah, you're right, mate. Say though, Webb looks me like a light heavyweight when you see him in the cage. He's a big lad. And for you, Stevie, are you agreeing or disagreeing with James on this one?
It's a tough one as well. I think, like you say, James Webb is quite a bit bigger, but see, last couple of times I've seen that Bonner, he's been pretty impressive. So good striking and stuff. I think he'd be smart. He'll maybe try and keep it on the feet. I'm going to go for Bonner. I think he's been pretty active and he's improved a lot. I think he moved gyms and stuff. I think he's maybe at SBG now, if I'm right. I don't know.
I think he's at Next Generation.
Next Gen. Sorry, Next Gen.
Rimmer, so yeah, both good gyms, man. Both really good gyms.
Yeah, I'm going to just edge towards him, I think, because he's been active and stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Bonner for that one.
Perfect. And that sort of takes us into the 2 title fights on the card. So the first one, title fight, is the bantamweight title fight against Sylvester Miller and Jack Cartwright. And I think what has to be said first of all is Jack Cartwright at this moment in time, he looks an extremely impressive bantamweight. Stevie, do you see the title changing hands in this one?
Nope. I can't see it past that. Jack Cartwright now, to be honest. I think he's unlucky not to be already signed to the UFC. He's got dynamite in his hands. Good size for the weight. He can wrestle really good. Decent jiu-jitsu. Like he's a good all-rounder. I had a quick look at the Miller guy. He looks pretty well-rounded as well. I just don't think he's got to be good enough to beat Jack Cartwright. Cartwright wins that. Yeah.
And I think right now Jack Cartwright, I mean, like you're saying about the UFC, I think Jack Cartwright goes into the UFC and does not look out of place at all, and does very well. He's an extremely good fighter, And James, again, I guess it's the same question. Do you see the title changing hands in this one?
Nah, I can't see it at all, to be honest. I don't think there's an unsigned bantamweight in Europe that beats him, Cartwright, just now. I've been big on him for a while. I know about his kind of wrestling credentials for Kieran Malone. He was involved with the British wrestling squad, and I think he boxed for England as well. So even as an amateur, he fought Dean Begg, a Scottish guy who'd done his camp with us, and Jack beat him. I can't remember if he subbed him or not, but and then when they brought him in for the 4-man tournament, and a lot of people overlooked him for that tournament, and I actually ended up winning money on it. I started making bets with people saying Cartwright's going to win this. Wait to see this guy, and he obviously looked. I think he got 2 knockouts and he looked outstanding, and he's just continued to do that as well. So I think Cartwright wins. I would have had him as the main event that night, because I think this will, if there's any justice, it'll be the last time you see this kid outside the UFC. And the only guys I can see getting trouble now would be guys that are in the UFC, and again he'll go there and he'll win fights and he'll make a dent in that division, and it's a exceptional division, but he's a massive talent, that kid. Just brilliant everywhere. Like for the way he knocks people at bantamweight, it's frightening. It's not that common, and then he's got the wrestling to fall back on, and then his head and arm stuff and whatever else, his threat with the chokes and stuff is excellent. So I've got him winning pretty comfortably. I'd imagine it'll be a stoppage.
Yeah.
And probably another highlight reel for him.
And then obviously the main event in the card, we've got the lightweight title up. So obviously Donovan Desmay stepping in late notice against the champion Agi Sardari. So late notice fight here. What's your thoughts on it? And obviously, what do you reckon Desmay's chances are coming into this one, James?
I think if he's fit, then it's a competitive fight. It's obviously really short notice. I think it was meant to be Mehdi Ben Lacker up until even Monday or Tuesday. I can't remember when he pulled, but Desmay's been an excellent fighter. He's been there or thereabouts at Cagewarriors for a while. Brilliant style, dangerous striker with good takedown defence, and that kind of ties in well with the champion who seems to favour kickboxing for his last fight. If he's fit, then it could be an excellent fight. I might even lean towards Desmay winning. The problem is the short notice for a 5-round fight is a big ask. Especially, I know everybody's kind of training in the with COVID and stuff, but it's not the same as if there was no COVID and everybody's training properly, waiting on fights and stuff. We're still, nobody I know is actually training the way they would normally. So I probably, it's how fit the guy is, because the champion looks like a durable dude. But I'll go with the champion just because of the short notice. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if Desmay comes in and knocks him out.
And Stevie, for you, obviously, your division, lightweight division, you just fought the gentleman who was supposed to be fighting for the belt, obviously isn't anymore. And like James was saying there, you have to factor in the short notice, especially under the current restrictions. Yeah. What do you think, mate?
I was looking forward to that fight. I was quite happy for Mehdi actually getting the title shot. I actually fancied Mehdi to win if it was going to be him. But that's Sardari. It's a weird one, man. See the fight with Jack Grant? I need to watch it back again, but I had Jack Grant ahead in that fight. It was really close and there wasn't much in it. And the reason that I'll probably go with Sardari is, again, the factor of just the short notice, like 10, 11 days notice, man. You've got to factor in the weight cut and a 5-round fight. It's got to be tough. But Desmay is dangerous, like very dangerous on the feet, got a lot of knockout power. If the fight goes over 2-3 rounds, I just can't see him having a way to win. I just think unless he's been training insane and he's managed to keep himself in great shape to jump at this opportunity, I don't know. But I think Sardari, just on the factor of on the factor of the short notice. I think if it wasn't there, I would probably lean towards Desmay, but I'm going to go with Sardari.
No, absolutely, and that will then wrap us up on the Friday night and take us to the final card, the 1-2-2 card on the Saturday night. Obviously good as well. We've got a wee bit of Scottish interest on this card, obviously. So we've got a 4-fight main card. Kicking off the card, we've got obviously Brian Bolland. I know most people will know, and he's fighting Liam Gittins. Stevie, we'll stick with you on this as we have been doing. Mm-hmm. Give me your thoughts. Who wins?
I tried to do a little bit of research on this one. I don't know too much about it. I know that Gittins used to fight at flyweight, so he might be a little bit small for bantamweight, but he's got a good record. But I think that Brian Bolland's been in with a lot of high-level guys.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Bolland on that one. Although I think it looks like Gittins is actually ranked higher, but I fancy Bolland to win that one.
James, for you, which way are you leaning? Are you leaning towards the veteran in Bolland?
I'm actually going to go with Gittins. It looks like every time this kid turns up, they expect him to lose, and it's like he refuses to lose, which I like. I like that in fighters. I know he's coming up for fly, but Bolland wasn't like a massive bantamweight. I think Gittins was a big fly, so I don't think there'll be much in the size difference on the night when they'll probably both go in the cage at similar weight. Again, it's a fight, and it's a good fight, but I'm going to lean towards Gittins, I think.
Yep, perfect.
It just looks like a younger, fresher fighter for me.
Brilliant. And then that sort of takes us into the next fight, obviously, especially up in Scotland. We're all familiar with Aidan Stephen, more recently for eating stupidly hot chili peppers in a Facebook video. Why you would do that, I don't know. But he likes to do some crazy things. So obviously Aidan Stephen is going in there against Tobias Harila, a guy, obviously you mentioned Swedish fighters earlier, Stevie. He's a Swedish fighter coming in with a record of 8-1. Obviously, there may be some names on his record that I'm maybe not so familiar with, so Aidan gets to welcome him into Cagewarriors. How do you see that one going for Aidan, and what do you think will be the outcome of that fight, James?
I think this Tobias is coming in with a bit of hype, actually. He's well fought in Sweden. Dangerous striker, big at the weight. I think he might have fought heavier before. And I think, Cagewarriors don't give you any easy introductions. They throw you to the wolves straight away. So it's an important fight for both guys. Like if he comes in and looks good against Aidan, he can maybe propel himself towards kind of title contention and stuff. But Aidan's just coming off probably his best performance in Cagewarriors. After the Paul Hughes fight, I thought he looked excellent the last time. I know he talked about adding strength and conditioning and stuff to his training. So I've not actually spoke to Aidan in a wee bit, but I think if he's had a good camp up the road and makes this a grappling match, I pick Aidan to win. I think as long as he doesn't get flustered and get dragged into a striking battle with this kid, he should be fine. So if he sticks to his A-game stuff, his wrestling, his top control, his back takes, I wouldn't be surprised if he subs him with the necktie or something like that. I'm never going to pick against Aidan anyway. So I'm going to go with him. I think it's a good test for him. I think a win here for Aidan puts him potentially right back in the title picture, which is what he wants and probably what he deserves. Yeah,
and Stevie as well about this fight, obviously. Harila may be relatively unknown over here, but he has fought some good guys. But the level of competition Aidan's been in there, I think when you look over the records, I think you've got to say Aidan has fought the much stiffer competition. Does that play a big factor in the fight as well?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely does. Aidan's been in there with a lot of good guys. And see, if you look at Aidan's amateur career, he fought all the best guys in Scotland. Like, he's fought. I actually went down to England and fought. Forgetting the kid's name. he's really good to sign to Bellator. But Aidan went and beat him, and I didn't think anybody was really wanting to fight him.
Was it Nathan Grierson, I think it was?
Something like that. He was something like that.
Sorry, when you go.
I think Aidan's been there with a lot of good guys. But I spoke to Robert Nystrom about this Swedish kid, and Nystrom said he's legit, really good.
Stevie's doing actual research.
I've been doing a lot of research. But he said he's very good in the feet, he said. But Aidan's good everywhere, man. I think everyone thinks Aidan's just a grappler, but if you watch his last fight, he drops that kid and stuff as well. He can wrestle. I've sparred with Aidan, man, he's good. So I see this fight finishing with a somersault off the cage and Aidan won.
Perfect. And then that takes us into co-main event. Obviously, this fight's going to garner a lot of interest. Paddy Pimblett's in there, and he's going in against David Martinez. Stevie, we'll stay with you on this one before we lead our way up to the main event. Paddy Pimblett, David Martinez. Give me your thoughts on it.
Pimblett wins that, I think, pretty comfortably, to be honest. That Martinez, I've seen a couple of his fights. Look, all right. Nothing really special. Pimblett's excellent, the grappling, and decent enough everywhere, to be honest. He's a pretty good fighter. I think it's a good fight for him to come back to after a long layoff. I can't say anything but a Pimblett win, but you never know. MMA's pretty crazy, but I fancy Pimblett for that one.
Yep. And James, obviously, same question, same fight to you.
I've also got Paddy winning. I think Stevie kind of hit the nail on the head with it. It's the perfect fight for him after the layoff with injuries and stuff. I think there's a lot of guys asking why he's not fighting for the title or maybe fighting bigger names and stuff like that. But the dude's been out for a long time with surgeries and stuff like that. And it's a smart fight for him, I think. I think Paddy wins it pretty convincingly. I know he's been working a lot on his striking and stuff like that, but I think we'll see him getting a submission, and then I think he's probably going to go to UFC after that. I don't think he's interested in the belt at Cagewarriors anymore.
Yeah.
After, I think he's turned the UFC down a couple of times, if I'm right. I think now it's different. I think now it's like, I need to go. So I've got Paddy winning that as well. It's good that he's back as well, man. He's a character and stuff, isn't he? So he's going to drag eyes to the event for Cagewarriors, and he's one of the guys that as many people want to see him win as they do loss. So I'm glad he's back. I think he wins. So I'm going to be surprised if he hits like a flying triangle or a heel hook or something, but I think he'll be looking to get a submission. The way stuff is with the UFC, it seems to be they're taking guys who are finishing. So he'll be aware of that. Paul Rimmer at Next Gen's one of the best coaches in the country, and I think he'll be looking for a finish, and then again off to the UFC for him, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you've got to imagine as well with the long layoffs with Paddy and stuff like that, it maybe makes you realise that things can happen that just pause your career for a very long time. So, and obviously time is never on a fighter's side, so when the opportunity comes up for the UFC, maybe at that point now where it's almost he has to take it or it may never come round again, I would think anyway. But that then takes us to our final fight of the trilogy. Obviously, Morgan Charrier versus Georgian Vicenic. So James, stay with you on this one. It's an exciting fight, a fun fight. Give me your thoughts on it.
I've been thinking about this all day. I knew that fight was going to get made after the last shows. It's an exceptional fight. Both the guys are brilliant, to be honest. I think the French kid's special. The way he handled Perry Goodwin was like just a kind of statement of that. He's not a normal fighter. Except, he was in our workout room a couple of times that week, and everything he does is just effortless. He's just a good athlete, exceptionally good fighter. The thing, I'm going to go with Jordan, and the reason is if you give me the French kid record, I think he's lost 6 or 7 fights. He's not at 16-6 or 16-7 or something.
16-7, aye.
Right, so there's a blueprint print to beat him. He's been beat 7 times. I don't think he's ever been stopped. But when you start dealing with guys that have already had losses, it's like the old Floyd Mayweather thing. Nobody can beat him because nobody's shown them how to beat him. But once you kind of start exposing gaps and stuff like that, and lay down a blueprint for beating these guys, then other fighters can copy it or plan on what adjustments has that guy made and base their plan around about it and stuff. And I think that's what kind of sides me towards Jordan. But again, this isn't going to be an easy fight. I can't see Jordan doesn't seem like the type of kid who's going to ever get discouraged. I think he'll be there for the first minute to the last. I actually can see Jordan outpointing him. I think he'll land more. And he'll just stay consistent, maybe a wee bit more variation. I wouldn't be surprised if he mixes stuff up with some wrestling. And it's an exceptional fight, I think. I'm going to go with Jordan, just for the sake that Sherry has been beat before. I know he looks better now than ever, and whatever, but so does Jordan. So,
and Stevie, who do you think takes this one?
This is a tough one as well. That Sharier looks, every time I've seen him fight, he looks better and better. But again, so does Jordan. I think I'm going to go with Vucinic as well. I fancy him just to win on points. I think he's just, if it's like predominantly a kickboxing match, but I think it could be one of them. I think he might just outpoint him. He's a little bit longer. It is a tough fight to call, to be honest. But I'm just going to say with Vucinic, he's a nice lad as well. Training partner, Luke, for a long time. Close fight, and both of them are excellent fighters. But I think Vucinic showed in his last fight he's got that kind of never quit in him as well. Like that was a razor thin fight. So Jordan for the win.
Perfect.
I think that might be the most technical fight of the weekend. I think, or the three shows. I think anyway, because it's proper like high level striking on both sides. I think Morgan Sherrier might be a little bit of a better puncher. He's a good body puncher and stuff like that. But I just feel like Jordan's got a wee bit more versatility with his weapons. I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan catches him with elbows and stuff like that. I know his Thai stuff's really nice. And I think the whole weekend that's like if you're a fan of technical MMA, not just like two guys beating the shit out of each other, but actual technical, I think that's the fight for me. And I think there might even be spells in that where if there was a crowd, they wouldn't be that entertained by it just because of the level these guys are operating at with their fakes and their setups. It's not going to be two guys standing toe to toe and just throwing. Like it's going to be one of the ones to watch, and you can appreciate chess match. Yeah, the level of the boys involved in it's going to be interesting to watch.
So for you, actually this will be for both of you then. So over the course of the trilogy, over the course of 3 nights and the 3 cards, is there a fight, Stevie, for you that stands out when you're like, right, that's the one I don't want to miss?
Mainly a lightweight title fight, just because it's my division and that's the fight that I want to see. There are a lot of exciting fights. There's actually a lot of lightweight cards on the lightweight fights on the card, which on all 3 cards, which I'll be mainly focused on, to be honest. A lot of good fights. Lightweight title fights probably the one I'll be keeping my eye on the most.
And James, for you, what's the fight that you're looking out for? What's the one you definitely won't be missing?
Probably the featherweight title. Obviously, I'll be keeping an eye on the lightweights for Stevie, and there's not a lot happening at flyweight. The shows for Luke, but I'll keep an eye there anyway. But I think that fight on the Saturday night, the main event, Morgan and Jordan's probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. But I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of the fights that you weren't expecting to be exceptional end up or turn out to be brilliant. I don't again. The job being Dean's done is phenomenal. There's no mismatches on it. There's no record padding. There should be some excellent fights.
And listen, it's got to be said as well, we've not covered it in this because we'd be here all night, but I mean, there's some crackers on the prelims as well. Some of the fights are not to be missed. And Just the last question I'd like to put to both of these, obviously, before we wrap up. So, obviously, given Cage Warriors' track record, they producing guys through their system to go on to the UFC and do well. Who do you see across these 3 fights as potential guys that this might be their last fight for Cage Warriors, to then moving up to the UFC and being signed there? James, you mentioned a couple during the show there. If you just want to run through, and is there a few guys in particular you see making the step to UFC after this?
The first, Pimlet, I think, is an obvious, like, if he doesn't make the UFC, it's something's went wrong. Do you know what I mean? He should have been in the UFC by now anyway, even just on the base of the kids following. Like, the UFC went through a spell where they were signing guys on social media numbers and stuff like that, and he's got all that, as well as he was selling at arenas in Liverpool and stuff like that, and he can actually fight. And there's guys like him in the UFC, but not as good as what your Chase Hooper, like, just deadly in one range. And Paddy's obviously a better striker, but I think him. But for me, the one, if I can only pick one to go to the UFC after the trilogy, it's going to be Cartwright, because I expect him to get a finish. I think if Jordan or Morgan Sherrier get a finish, then possibly the UFC as well. But I think Cartwright for me, just because of the way he's, like, this is his third title defence. He won it in a 4-man tournament. He's starching guys out, and in that division in the UFC, there's some exciting matchups there. Even if they keep him with Nathaniel Woods and stuff like that, and Jack Shore, even like more local guys, the fights are unbelievable. But I'm going to go Cartwright for me. Just stands out a wee bit more than the rest because of the finishing ability at bantamweight.
Yeah, and Stevie, for you, any standouts you feel will be making a step up to the UFC after this?
Just copying James again, to be honest. Cartwright's a stick on, I think. Like, it goes 10-0, then straight to the UFC. For me, I think that's got to happen. Pimlet's obviously got the big following, and if that Sharia could win, he's got a massive following as well. I think he was some sort of big star in France, so he's obviously got the potential to go as well. But I think directly from these cards, I think they're the best ones to go.
Perfect. That's a great way to end the show. So I think everybody's in agreement that Jack Cartwright is the stick on to be in the UFC after this.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, obviously that wraps up the show on the weekend. The Cage Warriors Trilogy fights coming up. We're looking forward to them again. And thanks everybody for tuning into the Higher Level Podcast. Remember as well, pop over to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the show. We really appreciate the support. Right. Cheers everyone. Thanks guys.